Do you have an excessive curve in your low back and pain associated with it? Want to find out how to solve it? Watch this.
Our first caller is Kelly from Missouri.
Kelly, how's it going? How can we help you?
Hey guys, I just wanted to say, like everybody else, really appreciate you guys having me on here. Everything you put out there, I've learned way more from you guys than I have from any of my certifications. So thank you for that.
Very cool. Awesome.
I will say, Adam, you've made my life with dishes a hell of a lot easier. So appreciate that. I actually don't hate dishes as much as I used to. So thank you.
Single best advice
Dude,
I've given on the
dish guy.
2,000 episodes. That's the best advice I've given.
Yes. I mean, I've listened to pretty much all of them, and I got to say that one has really stuck out for me. So I appreciate that.
Teaching people how to tie their shoes. That's all I'm doing.
If you have an easier way for that, I'm all for it. So main reason I reached out to you guys, I have recently jumped to online training, and I have been training a client. She's about 50, 51 right now, who has excessive anterior pelvic tilt. And I want to say shifting as well. So any sort of movements we do, any sort of squats, anything laterally, deadlifts, she can't do them without extreme pain, either during that movement or later in the day when she starts walking. She'll really kind of feel it shooting up her back. She tells me she feels it mostly in the ridge of her sacroiliac. So I've been having her do some moves, some MAPS Prime Pro, some 90-90 bird dogs, the floor pelvic tilt, and she loves them. She says they feel great. They help her work out, which is awesome. I am struggling with trying to figure out how to get her pelvic tilt addressed, especially doing this virtually. It's a lot harder than obviously being in person and being able to see the movement as they're doing it and being able to address it in real time. So I've been trying to give her things from MAP Symmetry to address, any imbalances she has. But anything we do seems to aggravate it. So we try to do one leg sit and stands. I try to have her hold on to like a suspension trainer, kind of take some of the weight off. And it's just nothing I'm doing is seeming to get this going. She says she really likes the glute bridge. It seems to help a lot, but she's still feeling that excessive arch in her back, even when she's trying to squeeze her core, squeeze her glutes, try to focus on that. So I'm really just kind of looking for advice where to go from here, because I feel like I'm sort of failing her almost in this fact that I can't seem to figure out where this pain is coming from or how to address it.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, every once in a while you'll get a client like this where all of your usual bag of tricks doesn't work, and you start to scratch your head and try to figure out like what the hell's going on. So here's the deal. So first off, your view on anterior pelvic tilt, change it this way. I'm going to find a way to get her to not feel pain. And then how that changes her posture is how that changes her posture. Because I think if we look at posture and say that's excessive, maybe or maybe not. Now, what is obviously meaning it's probably excessive is the pain, right? So let's not worry so much about how it looks. Let's worry about how it feels. Not that you're way off that, but just it's a better mentality to go into when you're training a client like this. The second thing is the cueing makes a huge difference with someone like this. So if she is indeed getting pain because her anterior pelvic tilt is too excessive, if that's indeed the case, what I used to do with clients is when I'd have them get into a position, I would say, okay, exaggerate the pelvic tilt. So go ahead and make it worse. Now try to do the opposite, which you're doing already with the pelvic tilts on the floor. Now find the middle, try to hold that middle while we do this exercise. And you could do that with every exercise. Any exercise she does, have her find the extreme, then the opposite extreme, then the middle. Physio ball exercises are really good at this because she's going to have to really get comfortable with holding her body in a position that's a little different than the way she's holding it. So that's where I would start.
Yeah, I mean, I would just kind of piggyback on that in terms of like the floor press and like, taking her down there and just really staying down there and having her like isometrically, really kind of press her way down and get her back to kind of, get in that flattened position before the actual floor bridge itself. And then just, maybe spending a bit more time just as the central focus of of your training, and then seeing kind of where that kind of progresses and how we can kind of go from there.
This is really hard to deal with as a online trainer.
Yeah,
this is the reason why in-person training will always be a little bit better than, and you're doing a great job. I mean, literally, like Sal said, I mean, you're throwing all the right tricks at it, trying to figure it out. But the truth is, if and we can say something basic, overhead press, bicep curl. if she does not know how to control her pelvic like that, and she doesn't know how to keep it in that neutral position, like Sal was talking about, why she does all those exercises, it's so hard for you to be able to teach that without like almost touching her, right? And I mean, at least in my experience, clients, it's hard to articulate that over text or email, and even like video talking. It's like, that's one of those skills that you almost have to like be there to kind of get them like, this is where I want you to hold it, now hold that position, tighten your core. Is she by chance, is she in a different state? Is she in the same state or city as you? Like, do you know where she's based?
No, right now she is staying in, I believe it's Wisconsin for about a month or so, but she lives in Seattle.
Okay.
So far away from you.
So far away. Because the next thing I would do, and this is if I'm like online trainer, I would actually try and recommend her to. I would do, which sucks for you because it'd be like you have to do your research in Seattle. That's why I was asking if she's in your town. Like I know in my town, like I know like the movement specialist person that she should go see. Listen, go see somebody. I want you to tell them X, Y, and Z, or let me get on the phone with them and tell them what's going on. And get her to get somebody in person to help her through some of the stuff like that. Yeah. Otherwise, the advice that Sal gives is kind of the best advice we can give, but you may keep running into this if she's not.
It's a cueing issue.
Yeah,
Kelly.
if she's not.
I'm gonna tell you right now. It's okay. Try this. I'm racking my brain. Try this. Have her sit on a physio ball. Make sure it's appropriate size physio ball, so her knees are at 90 degrees, so not too short, not too tall. Have her set up her phone so that she's videoing herself from the side so that you could see her low back and spine. Have her, as she's sitting on there, accentuate or exaggerate the pelvic tilt, and then have her go in the opposite direction while she's on the ball, and then have her find the middle. Okay, so watch her go extreme one way, extreme the other way, find the middle, and let's say hold that, and let's try curls or laterals or overhead presses. It really doesn't matter. What you're trying to do is get her to know how to hold that position while doing something else.
Yes.
And then at least you could watch. If you're looking from the side, you should be able to see what's going on. Like I remember having a client like this where no matter what we did, she would feel it in her lower back.
Yes.
And it didn't matter. It could be a curl, anything. And so I remember doing this exact thing and saying, here, why don't you arch it more? And she'd be like, oh, that hurts more. Okay, now go in the opposite direction. And then she would do that. Then I'd say, find the middle. Now just hold that. And then I'd have to lighten the load. Because if she went too heavy, she would go back to her old, pattern.
I did the same, but in the quadruped position, right? So you're doing like cat-cow in a sense, but really trying to find that middle spot is where it's at for her to brace and be able to sustain. So I mean that, and then the wall's your friend too, with the wall press. So just getting her to ritualize that and be able to do that like every single morning, for 10, 15 minutes and just focus on like one or two very impactful type of exercises that addresses this specific issue.
I used to also teach a client like this how to do like a reverse crunch first before we get into our workout.
Totally.
So I'd lay them on the floor.
So they could learn how to connect.
Yeah. So I'd lay them on the floor and then have them do like a really slow and controlled reverse
like
crunch.
A roll back.
Yeah. And kind of just so I can get like a little pump in the abs and get her to tighten up and really get her to understand what I'm how to get her to articulate her spine the way I want, and then go into my traditional exercises that I'm teaching her. So that's a tip that might help, might not.
Two other things that could contribute to this that are really hard to find. Okay, one is we tend to believe that somebody with a strong anterior pelvic tilt with pain associated with the pelvic tilt has hamstrings that are too tight, which may be true, but that doesn't mean that they aren't also weak. Sometimes strengthening the hip flexors, I should say, sometimes strengthening the hip flexors actually alleviates some of this pain. So she could do single leg lifts, so laying flat on the floor while maintaining good neutral spine and then lifting one leg and then lifting the other leg. Sometimes that can help. And then finally, does she seem to store a lot of visceral body fat in her midsection?
I mean, she's pretty thin to begin with. She's very dialed in on her diet. She always has been. She's actually my aunt. So I've known she has some PT background as well. She coaches volleyball. So she has some sort of understanding of nutrition and everything like that. So not so much helping her with the nutrition side, but she's honestly not like overweight or anything like that.
Okay. Because sometimes visceral body fat will do is it'll push out the core muscles. It'll change their activation. So sometimes that makes a big difference. But yeah, what we said earlier, I would go with that. Watch her on a physio ball. It's easier on a physio ball than it is standing. And then from there, and keep the load light, because what you're trying to do is get her to learn how to do other exercises while maintaining a position in her back to where she doesn't hurt.
Another way to do that, have you ever seen that? I did this video a long time ago. We might have it on our YouTube channel with the PVC pipe. Have you seen me do that before?
Yeah, like keeping contact on the three.
Yeah, having her use that to teach that, to kind of get that idea. So those are just, I mean, I know we're throwing spaghetti on the wall right now because it literally is that situation.
It's usually a cueing thing.
Yeah.
And I know I've been here, and then finally I get the right cue, and they're like, oh, pain's gone.
That's a good point, though. I mean, props a lot of times. And you said you're using like the suspension trainer too to try and kind of alleviate some of the force and the stress. But yeah, in terms of like the PVC pipe down the spine, I think that, is an appropriate way for her to see if she can try and touch, that with her lower back.
Okay, great. That's actually great. Yeah. So I hadn't really thought about regressing her back to starting everything back on the physio ball. So that's definitely, I'll have to do that and just kind of make sure she's not in her own head about going backwards or anything like that.
Well, and you just said something. I mean, you said something else earlier that now makes a lot of sense. She was an athlete. She's probably been used to performing at a high level and very fit. You're going to have to regress her because her body's learned to move one way. And if there's any type of intensity involved, it's going to move the way it always moves. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have to regress her and teach her body how to move a little bit differently to get the pain to go away. So if she's lifting intensely, it's going to be very hard for her body to control that pelvic tilt in a way that alleviates pain.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for calling in.
Thanks, Kelly. Feel better.
Thank you.
She looks like a female Adam.
What?
She got the sleeve.
She's going to be.
Is that why I thought she was attractive?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you do like yourself quite a bit.
Carry a mirror around
this
you.
is
you guys remember clients like this?
Well,
where you're like, it's a mystery.
Yeah.
This is also what makes online coaching inferior to in person.
This is the issue, right?
She's got all the great tools, like and like the way she was. Okay, I'm gonna have her do the 90-90s. I'm gonna have her do this. Like she's throwing all the stuff that we have at her to try and get her. At the end of the day, if you're not there to see it while it's happening and catch it and go like, oh, I see what's going on.
Because you could do any movement, even the right movement, that's in a way that's a little wrong.
That's why I brought up bicep curls. Yeah. Bicep curls and overhead pressing. I'm like, if this person does have an excessive tilt and she's feeling that shearing pain like that, she's probably doing bicep curls wrong, shoulder pressing wrong, lateral, everything.
A lot of times you'll see it when like the bracing, like you disconnect in a certain range of motion of the exercise. And so you're not going to know that unless you're there to really, observe.
And 100%. So this client is a client that you can only do this in person. I would, through the whole program, no matter what exercise we were doing, I had the PVC pipe.
Yeah.
It was like that. I would get her in a position, we could do a cable fly. Yep. And I boop, 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 hit
the whole
3
workout.
points. And I'm like, that is our focus more than how much weight and reps we're doing.
100%.
Don't lose contact in those 3 points until she got to the place where she knew how to keep her body in that good neutral spine 100%. While doing the movements.